The silence broke on a Tuesday morning. Humanity had long wondered if they were alone in the universe, but no one expected first contact to happen during rush hour traffic in Tokyo. The massive ships appeared simultaneously over every major city on Earth, their hulls shimmering with an otherworldly iridescence that made them look like suspended auroras. Dr. Maya Chen stood at her office window in the United Nations building, watching the vessel hovering over New York. Unlike the chaos depicted in countless science fiction movies, the streets below were eerily quiet. The world held its breath, waiting. Dr. Chen, her assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. The Security Council is convening in 5 minutes. Maya straightened her jacket and gathered her thoughts. As the UN's foremost expert in theoretical xenolinguistics, she had spent her career preparing for this moment. Yet nothing could have truly prepared her for what was about to unfold. The Security Council chamber was packed when she arrived. Representatives from every nation sat in tense silence as Secretary General Okafor addressed the assembly. "The vessels have made no hostile moves," he said, his usually steady voice betraying a hint of strain. "However, they've begun broadcasting a signal across all frequencies." Maya's tablet lit up with the incoming data. The signal was unlike anything she'd ever seen, not radio waves or light pulses, but something far more sophisticated. It took her team less than an hour to decode the first message, and when they did, Maya felt her world tilt on its axis. The aliens, calling themselves the Arthuri, hadn't come to conquer Earth or share advanced technology. They had come to trade, but not for resources or scientific knowledge. They wanted Earth's art, all of it. "They want our what?" General Harrison's voice boomed across the chamber when Maya presented her findings. "This has to be some kind of joke." Maya shook her head, rereading the translation. "They're specifically requesting access to our creative outputs: art, music, literature, dance, theater, everything from cave paintings to contemporary installations. They're offering advanced medical technology in exchange." The chamber erupted in confused murmurs. Ambassador Liu from China raised her hand. "But surely this is a deception, a way to study our culture before an invasion." "I don't think so," Maya replied, pulling up more decoded transmissions. "The Arthuri have been monitoring our broadcasts for decades. They've seen our military capabilities, our nuclear arsenals. If they wanted to invade, they wouldn't need this pretense." The debate raged for hours. Some nations saw it as an opportunity, a peaceful first contact with immediate benefits for humanity. Others suspected a trap. But as more messages were decoded, the Arthuri's sincerity became harder to doubt. They shared glimpses of their own civilization, a species that had mastered faster than light travel and conquered disease, but whose art consisted entirely of perfect geometric patterns. Their music was mathematically precise but utterly soulless. They had no concept of dance, no poetry, no stories that weren't simply records of historical events. "They're like savants of science," Maya explained to the council, "but they seem to be completely lacking in creative imagination, and for some reason they've become obsessed with ours." The first direct communication came 3 days later. The Arthuri ambassador, a tall, crystalline being that seemed to shift colors with its movements, appeared as a hologram in the UN General Assembly. Its voice, translated through Maya's team's algorithms, was surprisingly melodious. "We offer you advancement beyond your current technological capabilities," it said. "Medical knowledge that will end all disease. Clean energy that will save your planet from climate change. All we ask in return is access to your creative works and the right to observe their creation." The offer was too good to refuse, but Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was at play. As she watched the Arthuri ambassador's shifting colors, she noticed patterns in the changes, like ripples of emotion it couldn't quite contain. The world governments debated for weeks, but in the end, the decision was unanimous. Earth would share its art with the stars. Maya was appointed as the head of the newly formed Cultural Exchange Initiative, tasked with coordinating the massive undertaking of cataloging and sharing humanity's creative heritage. But as she began working closely with the Arthuri, she started to notice things. The way they would stand transfixed before abstract paintings for hours, how they would replay simple children's songs repeatedly, as if trying to understand something just beyond their grasp. The questions they asked about the creative process became increasingly specific, almost desperate. One evening, as Maya was explaining the concept of improvisation to an Arthuri scientist named Val Thor, she saw something extraordinary. As she played a jazz recording, the crystalline being's colors began to shift in patterns she'd never seen before. Chaotic, unpredictable swirls that seemed to follow the music. "This is irregular," Val Thor said, its voice trembling. "It creates patterns in my thought processes that I cannot predict or control. How do you bear it?" Maya smiled. "That's the beauty of it. We don't try to control it. We let it move us." Val Thor's colors swirled faster. "But how do you create such things? How do you produce these patterns that have no logical purpose yet affect us so deeply?" And that's when Maya began to understand. The Arthuri hadn't come just to collect Earth's art. They had come because they were missing something fundamental, something they once had but had lost in their pursuit of technological perfection. They had come to learn how to dream again. As she looked out her office window that night, watching the Arthuri ship glowing against the New York skyline, Maya realized that this was more than just first contact. It was the beginning of something unprecedented. A cultural exchange that would change both species forever. The real question was, were humans ready to become teachers to beings who had mastered the stars? The Cultural Exchange Center rose like a gleaming fusion of human and Arthuri architecture in the heart of Geneva. Its spiral towers caught the morning light, sending rainbow refractions across the lake. Inside, Dr. Maya Chen watched as Sarah Torres, a young street artist from Buenos Aires, taught a group of Arthuri the concept of freestyle painting. The aliens stood before their canvases, their crystalline forms pulsing with uncertainty. Their natural ability to change colors made them perfect candidates for visual arts, yet they struggled with the most basic concept, spontaneity. "Don't think about what you're going to paint," Sarah encouraged, her voice warm and patient. "Just feel the movement of your arm. Let the colors flow naturally." Val Thor, Maya's regular research partner, held the brush awkwardly. "But how do we know if what we create will be correct?" Sarah smiled. "There is no correct in art. That's what makes it beautiful." The concept seemed to physically pain the Arthuri. Their species had spent millennia perfecting efficiency, eliminating uncertainty, and mastering the precise sciences. The idea of creating something without a predetermined outcome went against everything they had become. Maya's tablet chirped with an incoming message. The preliminary results from the medical technologies the Arthuri had shared were promising. Cancer rates had dropped by 60% in initial trials, and a cure for Alzheimer's was on the horizon. The exchange was already proving invaluable for humanity. But as Maya watched the Arthuri struggle with their canvases, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were getting the better end of the deal. There was something desperate in their pursuit of human creativity, something that went beyond mere cultural interest. Later that evening, in her private office, Maya reviewed the data from the day's sessions. The Arthuri had made minimal progress with painting, but their response to music continued to be extraordinary. During a classical concert the previous night, their color patterns had shown unprecedented complexity. "Dr. Chen," Val Thor's voice came from the doorway. "May I discuss something with you?" Maya gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Of course. And please, call me Maya." Val Thor settled into the seat, its colors shifting in what Maya had learned to recognize as anxiety. "I have been authorized to share something with you, something about our true situation." Maya leaned forward, her heart racing. Finally, after months of careful diplomacy, they might learn the real reason behind the Arthuri's fascination with human art. "Our species is dying," Val Thor said simply. Its colors dimmed to a muted gray. "Not physically. We have conquered disease and extended our lifespans beyond what you would consider possible. But we are dying in ways that matter more. What do you mean? 3 centuries ago, our scientists made a discovery. They found a way to optimize our neural pathways, to eliminate what they considered inefficient thought patterns. The procedure was voluntary at first, but the results were so impressive that it quickly became mandatory. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of inefficiencies? Dreams, random thoughts, the neural patterns that led to what you would call imagination. Valthor's form rippled. We thought we were advancing, becoming pure beings of logic and reason, but we didn't understand what we were losing until it was too late. The art, Maya whispered. That's why you need it so desperately. Valthor nodded. We discovered that exposure to human creativity stimulates neural pathways we thought were lost forever. Your art, your music, they're not just entertainment to us. They're medicine. Maya sat back, her mind racing with implications. But why didn't you tell us this from the beginning? Would you have trusted us if we had admitted that we had done this to ourselves? Valthor's colors swirled with shame. We feared you would see us as monsters, as a cautionary tale rather than potential allies. Maya thought of the Arthuri she had worked with over the past months, their genuine wonder at things humans took for granted. A child's crayon drawing, a street musician's improvised melody, a dancer's spontaneous movement. What happens if you can't restore these neural pathways? She asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. We have already begun to see the effects. Birth rates are dropping. Our young ones lack the neural plasticity needed for proper development. Some of our scientists estimate we have less than a century before our civilization begins to collapse. Maya stood and walked to the window. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors that no algorithm could have designed. We'll help you, she said finally, but no more secrets. If this is going to work, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Valthor's colors brightened slightly. There is something else, something we've discovered in our research. The neural stimulation works both ways. When we observe human creativity, it doesn't just affect us. It affects you too. Maya turned back. What do you mean? Your artists, the ones who work closely with us, their creative output has increased exponentially. It's as if our presence, our very need for their creativity, amplifies their abilities. We are changing each other, Maya, and we don't know where it will lead. Outside, the first stars were becoming visible. Somewhere up there, the combined fleet of human and Arthuri ships was preparing for the first joint exploration mission. 2 species, one seeking to regain its soul, the other reaching for the stars. Maya realized they stood at a crossroads of history. The exchange of art for technology had been just the beginning. What they were really trading was something far more profound, a lesson in what it meant to be truly alive. The revelation of the Arthuri's condition changed everything. Within weeks, the Cultural Exchange Center had transformed into something far more ambitious, the Neural Restoration Project. Maya found herself leading a team of human neuroscientists, artists, and Arthuri researchers in what might be the most important creative endeavor in history. Dr. James Rivera, Earth's leading neuroplasticity expert, stood before a holographic display of Arthuri neural patterns. It's fascinating, he said, gesturing to the complex web of connections. Their optimization procedure didn't actually remove these neural pathways. It just suppressed them, like a muscle that's atrophied from disuse. Maya watched the patterns pulse with activity as they exposed the test subject to various forms of human art. Can we reverse it? That's the interesting part, James replied, zooming in on a particular cluster of connections. Look at what happens when we combine different creative stimuli. The hologram shifted to show a recording from yesterday's experiment. An Arthuri researcher named Kellen sat in a chamber, simultaneously exposed to a jazz performance while creating a painting. The neural activity was extraordinary, new pathways forming in real time. They didn't just suppress creativity, Maya realized. They suppressed the ability to make new connections. Art isn't just stimulating them, it's teaching their brains how to grow again. Val Thor entered the lab, its colors showing the subtle patterns Maya had learned to recognize as excitement. "We've made a discovery," it announced, "about the reciprocal effect on humans." They gathered around another holographic display, this one showing human brain scans. The images belonged to artists who had been working closely with the R theory over the past months. "The quantum fields generated by our crystalline forms," Val Thor explained. "They act as amplifiers for human creative potential. When we observe human creativity, we create a feedback loop that enhances both species' neural activity." Maya studied the scans. The human artists working with the R theory showed unprecedented levels of neural connectivity. Their creative output hadn't just increased, it had evolved into entirely new forms. Sarah Torres, the street artist who had been teaching the R theory, was now creating paintings that seemed to shift and change depending on the viewer's emotional state. A composer in the music department had written a symphony that produced different harmonies for every person who heard it. "We're not just helping them," James said quietly. "They're helping us reach the next stage of human creative evolution." But with breakthrough came complications. Conservative factions on both sides began to raise concerns. Some humans worried about the effects of prolonged exposure to R theory quantum fields. Among the R theory, a movement emerged that saw the return of creativity as a threat to their ordered society. Maya found herself working late one night, reviewing the latest test results, when she received an urgent message from the R theory homeworld. The Council of Elders had convened an emergency session. The transmission showed a vast crystalline chamber filled with R theory dignitaries. Their collective anxiety was visible in the chaotic color patterns that filled the room. "We have detected an anomaly," the chief elder announced, their form pulsing with deep purple hues of concern. "The neural restoration process is having an unexpected effect on our youngest generation." Data streams filled Maya's screen. The R theory children exposed to human creativity weren't just recovering lost neural pathways, they were developing entirely new ones. Their capacity for imagination was exceeding even pre-optimization levels. "They're dreaming," Val Thor whispered, reading the data over Maya's shoulder. "Not just during rest cycles, but while awake. They're imagining things that never were, possibilities that defy our logical frameworks." Maya felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. Isn't this what we wanted? The restoration of creative thought. "You don't understand." Val Thor's colors shifted to a deep blue she had never seen before. "Our civilization is built on predictability, on knowing every variable. These children, they're introducing chaos into a system that has known only order for centuries." The chief elder's voice resonated through the transmission. "We must decide now. Do we continue this experiment, knowing it may fundamentally change who and what we are? Or do we terminate the project and accept our slow decline?" Maya stood up, addressing the council directly. "With respect, that's a false choice. You're not deciding between chaos and order. You're choosing between stagnation and growth. Yes, creativity brings uncertainty, but it also brings innovation, adaptation, and survival." She gestured to the data showing the neural development in R theory children. "These new patterns don't represent the death of your civilization. They represent its renaissance. Your children aren't just recovering what was lost. They're discovering who they were meant to be." The chamber erupted in a kaleidoscope of colors as the elders debated. Maya watched, heart pounding, knowing that this moment would determine not just the fate of the R theory, but the future of human-alien collaboration. Finally, after what seemed like hours, the chief elder spoke again. "We have reached a consensus. The project will continue, but with a modification. We request that humans do more than teach us art. We ask you to help us rebuild our entire educational system, to find a balance between logic and creativity that serves both." Maya felt tears in her eyes as she watched Val Thor's colors shift through every spectrum of visible light. Their version of joyful laughter. They had done more than save a species. They had proven that the greatest achievements come not from perfection, but from the beautiful uncertainty of creation. The first Arthuri Human Creative Academy opened its doors on a warm spring morning in Geneva. Maya stood in the central atrium, watching as young Arthuri, their crystalline forms still small and delicate, mingled with human children. The scene before her would have been unimaginable just a year ago. A small Arthuri child approached a human girl who was drawing with holographic crayons. Instead of the rigid geometrical patterns typical of their species, the young alien's colors swirled in curious, irregular waves. The human girl offered a crayon, and without hesitation, the Arthuri took it, their crystalline appendage adapting to hold the unfamiliar tool. Remarkable, isn't it? Dr. Rivera appeared beside Maya, his research tablet displaying real-time neural scans of the interaction. Their neural plasticity in childhood is absolutely extraordinary. They're not just learning to be creative, they're reinventing what creativity means for their species. The scans showed something unprecedented. The quantum fields generated by the Arthuri children were synchronizing with the human children's brainwaves, creating patterns neither species had exhibited before. Art produced in these joint sessions defied conventional description. Paintings that responded to thought, music that could be seen as well as heard. But not everyone celebrated these developments. Maya's tablet buzzed with another report of protests outside the Academy's Tokyo branch. A group calling themselves Human Purity Front had gathered, claiming the Arthuri influence was changing human children in unpredictable ways. They weren't entirely wrong. The first generation of human children educated alongside the Arthuri showed remarkable cognitive developments. Many demonstrated an ability to perceive quantum states directly, while others exhibited forms of creativity that seemed to transcend normal human limitations. Val Thor, now the Academy's co-director, approached with a group of concerned Arthuri parents. Their colors showed the subtle patterns of worry that Maya had learned to recognize. They're asking if we can guarantee their children won't lose their logical foundations entirely, Val Thor explained. Some fear we're trading one extreme for another. Maya understood their concern. The latest neural scans showed the young Arthuri developing in ways that diverged significantly from their species' baseline. They weren't just regaining lost creative capacity, they were evolving into something entirely new. Show them the harmony studies, Maya suggested. She pulled up the recent research data on her tablet. Look at how the children naturally balance logic and creativity. They're not losing their analytical abilities. They're learning to integrate them with imagination. The evidence was compelling. In problem-solving tests, the integrated education groups consistently outperformed both traditional human and Arthuri methods. They approached challenges with a unique combination of systematic analysis and creative intuition. But the most fascinating developments were happening outside the classroom. In the Academy's art studio, a teenage Arthuri named Zenri had discovered they could use their quantum field to directly manipulate light and matter, creating sculptures that existed in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. A human student, Maria Patel, had learned to compose music that resonated with the crystalline structure of the Arthuri, producing harmonies that could actually accelerate their neural restoration. We need to show them, Maya said suddenly. Not just the parents or the protesters. Everyone. They need to see what's really happening here. The idea quickly took shape. A grand exhibition of human Arthuri collaborative art, broadcast simultaneously across both worlds. Maya and Val Thor spent weeks preparing, selecting pieces that demonstrated not just creativity, but the emergence of an entirely new form of expression born from the partnership of both species. On the day of the exhibition, the Academy's Great Hall was transformed. Zenri's quantum sculptures drew gasps from both human and Arthuri visitors as they shifted through impossible geometries. Maria's Senharmonic Orchestra performed pieces that made the very air shimmer with visible sound waves. Young artists from both species demonstrated new techniques that merged traditional methods with advanced technology. But the centerpiece was something even more extraordinary. A group of human and Arthuri students had created what they called a consciousness garden, an interactive space where the thoughts and emotions of visitors manifested as living art. Human creativity and Arthuri quantum manipulation combined to create an experience that transcended traditional notions of art and science. As Maya watched a young human boy and his Arthuri friend guide their parents through the exhibition, she noticed something remarkable. The anxiety and resistance that had characterized so many early interactions between the species had given way to something else. Wonder. "We were wrong," Valthor said softly, its colors rippling with emotion. "We thought we were trying to restore what was lost, but we're actually building something that never existed before." Maya nodded, watching as a human artist and an Arthuri engineer collaborated to adjust one of the quantum sculptures. "This isn't just about saving your species or advancing ours. We're witnessing the birth of a new kind of consciousness, one that bridges the gap between logic and creativity, between order and chaos." The exhibition's success marked a turning point. Applications to the Academy doubled, then tripled. More importantly, the results were undeniable. The children of both species were thriving, developing abilities that pointed toward an extraordinary shared future. 5 years after the opening of the first Creative Academy, Maya stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, Earth's first joint human-Arthuri space installation. Below her, the Earth glowed like a blue jewel against the darkness of space, while above, the crystalline spires of the Arthuri section of the station caught starlight in mesmerizing patterns. "The latest reports from the homeworld are unprecedented," Valthor said, joining her at the window. Its crystalline form had changed over the years, developing subtle facets and patterns that reflected its own creative awakening. "The neural restoration has reached 70% of our population. Even some of the most resistant elders are showing signs of recovery." Maya smiled, remembering the early days when teaching an Arthuri to draw a simple curve had seemed like an impossible challenge. Now their joint artistic achievements were transforming both civilizations in ways no one could have predicted. "And what about the synthesis project?" she asked, turning to face her old friend. The synthesis project was their most ambitious undertaking yet, an attempt to merge Arthuri quantum technology with human creative consciousness to enable faster-than-light travel without ships. Early experiments had shown that the unique neural patterns developed by their hybrid education system might hold the key to manipulating space-time itself. "The first trials are scheduled for next month," Valthor replied, its colors shifting through excited patterns. "The young ones you trained personally will be leading the attempt." Maya's tablet displayed images from the project's development. Zenri, now a leading quantum artist, had worked with Dr. Rivera to develop a meditation technique that allowed humans to perceive and influence quantum states directly. Maria Patel's senharmonic compositions had proven crucial in stabilizing the quantum fields necessary for the experiments. But more remarkable than the technical achievements was the cultural transformation. The rigid hierarchy of Arthuri society had evolved into something more fluid, while human society had gained a deeper appreciation for the beauty of mathematical precision. Art and science were no longer seen as opposing forces, but as complementary aspects of understanding the universe. "There's something else," Valthor said, its colors shifting to a more serious tone. "The Council has detected signals from other galaxies. We're not the only ones watching Earth's creative renaissance." Maya felt a familiar mix of excitement and apprehension. More advanced civilizations. Different ones. Some seem to have followed paths similar to ours, pursuing technological perfection at the cost of their creative spark. Others appear to have gone in completely different directions. They're all interested in what we've achieved here. A group of students floated past the observation window, their space suits a mix of human and Arthuri design. Among them was a young human girl whose neural patterns had developed the ability to communicate directly with the crystalline structure of her Arthuri companions, and an Arthuri youth who could generate emotional fields that humans could physically feel. "We're ready for them," Maya said with confidence, "Whatever they bring, whatever challenges we face, we'll face them together." We've learned that the greatest discoveries happen when we embrace both logic and creativity, both structure and chaos. Valthor's form sparkled with agreement. The children born now will never know a world where our species were separated by our differences. To them, the blend of human imagination and Arthuri precision is as natural as breathing. Maya's tablet chimed with an incoming message. The first test results from the synthesis project had arrived early. She opened the file, and her eyes widened as she read. "Valthor," she whispered, "look at this." The data showed something extraordinary. During a routine neural synchronization exercise, a pair of students, one human, one Arthuri, had spontaneously generated a quantum field that briefly warped space-time around them. For a fraction of a second, they had achieved what the project had been striving for: consciousness-driven manipulation of reality itself. It wasn't just their neural patterns, Valthor said, analyzing the data. It was their shared creativity, their combined understanding of both the mathematical precision we value and the intuitive leaps that humans excel at. Maya looked out at the stars, thinking about the signals from distant galaxies, about the countless civilizations that might be watching, waiting to see what this unprecedented partnership between humans and Arthuri would achieve. "We started with art," she mused, "with simple drawings and music. Now we're reshaping the very fabric of space-time. And we're just beginning to understand what's possible." A flash of light caught her attention. Another quantum sculpture taking shape in the station's art gallery. Through the window, she could see human and Arthuri visitors gathering to watch as reality itself was transformed into art. "That's what makes us unique," Valthor said, its colors forming patterns that Maya now recognized as a smile. "Not just what each of our species can do alone, but what we can dream up together." As if in response to his words, the quantum sculpture bloomed into a form that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, a perfect fusion of mathematical precision and boundless imagination. It was neither human nor Arthuri, but something entirely new, a symbol of what they had become together, and a promise of what was yet to come. The future stretched out before them, as infinite as the stars themselves, waiting to be shaped by this new consciousness they had created, one that knew no boundaries between art and science, between logic and creativity, between what was possible and what could be imagined. And somewhere out there, other civilizations were watching, learning, and perhaps beginning to understand that the true path to advancement lay not in perfection, but in the beautiful uncertainty of creation, in the space between order and chaos where all great discoveries are born.